So I've been using the MacBook Neo for the last 2 weeks now, and boy has this laptop really impressed me. This might just be one of the best value devices that Apple has ever put out. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my experience using this device over the last 2 weeks. Talk about some of the downsides, if you can even call them that, and then at the end I'll explain whether I think this is a laptop that is worth you buying. So the big headline about this laptop is its price point. So here in the UK, the MacBook Neo currently retails for £599 on Apple's website, or £499 if you're a student. The base model comes with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of SSD storage, with an option to upgrade to 512GB of storage for an additional £100, which I think is just wild to think that, if you're a student going to university or school, you can literally pick up a brand new laptop from Apple for less than £500 with a student discount. I am also expecting that as the months go by, other retailers, including Apple, will start selling refurbished models of the MacBook Neo. So for those of you who don't know, refurbished Apple products are basically as good as being brand new, but you can normally pick them up for around 15% off the full retail price. So depending on when exactly you're watching this video, you may be able to pick up the MacBook Neo for even less than the current retail price. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, how is it that Apple have managed to build a laptop this cheap? Like, what is the catch that's going on here? You'd think that at this price point, maybe Apple would be using sort of cheaper materials, like plastic instead of aluminium, in order to bring the cost down. However, this couldn't be further from the case. The MacBook Neo features the same all aluminium build as the rest of Apple's laptops, giving it a very premium and solid build. It's extremely thin and light, weighing at just 1.2 kilograms, making the laptop very easy to carry around. I think if you're someone who's on the go a lot, let's say a student again, traveling to different parts of your campus, carrying around the MacBook Neo is going to be an absolute joy. It just has that nice portable feeling to it. Because the base of the laptop is so thin, I find that this also offers a very comfortable typing experience, both when sat at a table and when using the laptop in your lap. Like all MacBooks, the front of the Neo features a small groove that lets you lift up the lid of the laptop, which can extend up to 135 degrees like all other MacBooks. To the left-hand side, you have two USB-C ports. Only one of these offers USB 3 speeds for connecting external peripherals. The other one just offers standard USB 2 speeds for charging. But don't worry, if you do accidentally connect a peripheral to the wrong port, you'll have a pop-up on your system telling you that. And then below that, you have a headphone jack. It's worth noting that one limitation with the MacBook Neo is that you can only pair it to one external monitor at a time, with the display being capped at a resolution of 4K and 60Hz. So if you're somebody who likes to use multiple monitors, the Neo will only be able to extend to one of those displays. Similarly, if you're using a 5K display, like the Apple Studio display, apparently the resolution is meant to be capped at 4K. Although to be honest, I hadn't actually realized this until I'd seen it online. And realistically, I don't know how many MacBook Neo customers are going to be using an Apple Studio display as their main monitor. On both sides of the laptop, you have cutouts for the speakers. The speakers aren't the best. They lack the bass and the highs that you normally find in higher end laptops. So I'd definitely be using a pair of dedicated external speakers or headphones when listening to music. However, they get the job done and they generally get more than loud enough. So let's say you were listening to a video or a podcast in one room and you had to quickly go into another room to fetch something, you'd still be able to hear what's coming out of the Neo from the other room, even if the quality isn't the best. When it comes to the typing experience, the MacBook Neo features the same Magic Keyboard that you see across all of Apple's other products, along with the same shortcut buttons at the top for controlling things like the brightness and the volume. It's got a slightly lighter and brighter shade than the rest of the laptop body, which I'm personally not a huge fan of. I think it makes the device look a bit less serious and mature. However, that is very much just my own personal visual preference. Generally, the typing experience using the keyboard is very comfortable. It's not as enjoyable as something like my M1 MacBook Air was. I find that the keys don't have as much travel, which means sometimes my typing on this thing has been a bit inaccurate. However, overall, the experience has still been very good. In fact, I really enjoyed using the keyboard on this laptop to script this very review. One thing you will have noticed is that on the model that I've got, there is no Touch ID button anywhere on this thing. That's because you unfortunately do have to pay the additional $100 or pounds to upgrade to the 512GB version in order to gain Touch ID. And this unfortunately does mean that you'll need to manually type in your password every time you need to unlock your laptop. It's worth noting that even if you use Apple's Bluetooth Magic Keyboard with Touch ID, even then the Touch ID function won't work. Now, do I think it's worth upgrading to the 512GB model just to get Touch ID? Personally, I'd say no, mainly because I feel like the thing that separates the MacBook Neo from the rest of Apple's laptop lineup is its low price. And I think the moment you begin upgrading, you run into the risk of flirting with refurbished MacBook Air prices, which arguably will offer better hardware for similar prices. Another compromise that Apple have had to make is with the trackpad. So all of Apple's other laptops are quite famous for having trackpads with haptic feedback. What that basically means is that there's no physical button that you have to press on. I don't know what wizardry goes into it, but they're some of my favorite trackpads that I've ever used. The Neo, on the other hand, is using a physical button that you actually click on. It feels quite similar to the trackpad on the old iPad Magic Keyboard cases that Apple used to sell. Now, don't get me wrong, the trackpad is still nice to use. It has an even press across the entire surface, so it's not like some of those Windows laptops where like you can only press the top half, but the bottom half you can't click on. Although that said, it did take me a few days to get used to it because I found myself accidentally clicking on the trackpad when swiping between desktops. When it comes to the display, the MacBook Neo features a 13-inch liquid retina display capable of reaching up to 500 nits of peak brightness and a refresh rate of 60 Hz. Text looks extremely sharp on the screen, and it's bright enough for when you want to get work done outdoors on a sunny day. The bezels are somewhat chunkier than what you might see on some of Apple's newer MacBook models and other laptops out there in the market. However, if you're coming from something like an old Intel MacBook Air, the design is actually pretty close. And at least on the Neo, the bezels are even around the entire display. It is worth noting that you can only purchase the MacBook Neo in the 13-inch configuration. So if you're somebody who wants a slightly larger laptop, you want more screen real estate for things like multitasking, you'll need to look at Apple's 15-inch MacBook Air, which is going to be considerably more expensive. On top of the display houses the Neo's 1080p webcam and microphone, which in my experience do offer decent quality for video calls. Again, not world class, but they get the job done for most use cases. So this is a test of the camera and microphone on the MacBook Neo in a fairly well lit environment. So we've got lots of natural daylight coming through here. And actually this is what it would look like if I had the light from outside facing me this way. So normally when the light is in front of you, that results in a more pleasant looking image versus if the light is coming from behind you. And this is a test of the microphone and the webcam on the MacBook Neo in a slightly less well lit environment. So you can see that I've got the backlight behind me. And that's the only light that I've got on in the room. So this might resemble what, a typical FaceTime or video call might look like during the evening. Overall, I'm very much impressed with the build quality and the design of the MacBook Neo. I will say it definitely has a more friendly look to it, with the brighter keyboard colors rather than the more minimal look of my M1 MacBook Air. However, I think that Apple are very much targeting this laptop towards students and your everyday consumer, who I think will appreciate these, I don't want to say vibrant colors, but these different colors. So they clearly understand their market and what their customers are into. Okay, so at this stage, we've still not figured out what the catch to this laptop is. If it's not the design, is it the performance? While the MacBook Neo does feature a bin-down version of Apple's A18 Pro chip that was used in the iPhone 16 Pro Max 2 years ago, you'd think that with this laptop being powered by just an iPhone chip, that this machine would struggle a lot. However, again, that could not be further from the truth. The MacBook Neo is extremely fast during day-to-day use. Apps like Pages and Keynote open instantly. For example, I was able to open around 40 Pages files within about 15 seconds, whereas I know that would crash most Windows machines at this price point. You might think that with this laptop only having 8GB of RAM, that the machine would struggle when it comes to multitasking. However, from my experience, you can very much get away with having multiple instances of apps open and everything still feeling fine, even with 8GB of RAM. The only thing to note is that as you start downloading and installing more apps and photos and files and music over time, you may find yourself running into storage issues later down the line. And if this happens, you may start to see some brief slowdowns when it comes to multitasking. This is actually an issue I currently have on my M1 MacBook Air, where I've nearly maxed out the 256GB of storage. And I find that sometimes when I do have multiple apps open, the laptop does begin to slow down a little bit, although that is partly because I have a number of large creative apps installed that I don't expect the average person would be using. Really, I think the only instance in which you're going to notice a noticeable slowdown with this machine is if you go extremely overkill and you start opening hundreds of windows, or you start dabbling with creative workflows like Lightroom or Final Cut Pro. Not to say that this laptop can't do those things, to be fair. So the thumbnail for this video was actually edited on the MacBook Neo, but obviously this laptop was never designed for people needing that much power. You know, if you fall into that category, I'd highly suggest that you go out and buy a MacBook Air or a Pro instead. However, that said, it is nice knowing that if you're, say, a student purchasing this laptop for university and you start getting into, say, photography as a hobby in 2 years' time, with this laptop, you at least have the leeway and the headroom to start off your photo editing journey on the MacBook Neo without this machine being immediately obsolete. One thing to note as well is that you can also enjoy the full power of the A18 Pro chip, regardless of whether the laptop's plugged in or not. So generally speaking, when it comes to laptops that are powered by Intel chips, you'll often see a big reduction in performance the moment that you unplug the power cable. However, that's not an issue that you have to worry about with the MacBook Neo, because the chip is able to operate at full performance regardless of whether it's connected to an external power source. Don't ask me why that's the case. I think it's just something to do with the efficiency of the chip and the way that Apple are able to optimize their hardware and software together, but it is a benefit that you won't see on most of the laptops. Another advantage that the MacBook Neo will have compared to most PC laptops is the fact that it's a completely fanless machine. So with most laptops, as you push your laptop further and further, the chip that's powering the device will inevitably begin to heat up. And if your laptop starts to heat up, that can eventually start to throttle or slow down your performance. So what you'll find out there is that most laptops in the real world will have fans built inside of them to help cool the devices down during heavy workloads, which often results in a lot of noise. And to be honest, most of the time the laptop still gets hot anyway, to the point where if you're trying to use it on your lap, it doesn't feel that comfortable. With the MacBook Neo, you don't have to worry about any of those issues because this is a completely fanless laptop. And unless you're seriously stress testing this laptop, in 99% of scenarios, it's never going to get so warm or hot to the point where you have to start worrying about it feeling uncomfortable on your lap or the machine actually slowing down. In fact, during my time using this laptop so far, I've not once been able to get the laptop to heat up. Now, with the A18 Pro chip in this laptop being so efficient, it does also result in the MacBook Neo having pretty good battery life. The device is officially rated as offering around 11 hours of screen time, depending on how you measure it. During my daily usage, I'll normally be able to drain the battery by around 30% over the course of 2 to 3 hours, working inside of apps like Notion, Pages, and Safari, with the brightness at around 75%. And generally, I'd expect that this laptop should be able to get you through an entire day of work. So if you went out for the day and you accidentally left your charger at home, you have the assurance of knowing that you'll probably be okay for the day. Speaking of charging, the charging speeds are okay for this laptop. If you're using the standard 20-watt power brick that comes in the box, that should be able to charge the Neo from 0 to 15% in about 30 minutes. If however you use a slightly higher wattage power brick, say 35 watts, then in 30 minutes that will enable you to take the battery from 0 to 30%. However, it is worth noting that if you use anything higher than 35 watts, there is no additional charging benefit. So the speeds are effectively capped at around 30 to 35 watts, which I think is okay given how long the battery lasts in the first place. It's worth noting that unlike some of the more recent MacBooks, the only method for charging the Neo is via USB-C, so there is no kind of MagSafe charging like you get with the Air or the Pro models. However, overall, I'd say that you shouldn't find yourself having any kind of battery anxiety when it comes to this laptop. And one underrated benefit of the MacBook Neo is that it has an extremely good standby time. So if when you close your laptop lid at night, you have, let's say, 74% battery remaining, by the time that you open the lid up in the morning, you should still have around 71 to 73%. Whereas I know with a device like my iPad Pro, I can sometimes lose 10% of the battery life overnight. If you're coming from the Windows world, another benefit you'll likely enjoy is just being able to put the laptop to sleep by closing the lid. So rather than having to log off and shut down your laptop and then restart it every time, whenever you want to use your laptop again, you can just open the lid and type in your password, and everything, including all of your apps, will be as they were when you left them. The analogy I always use is it's kind of like using your smartphone. You know, like when was the last time that you actually ever powered off your smartphone when going to bed overnight? So to answer the original question at the start of the video, is the MacBook Neo worth buying? And the answer is absolutely not. I think this is a useless, overpriced machine from Apple that has terrible performance and terrible battery life for what you pay for. I'm obviously being sarcastic here. I think the Neo is probably going to be the default laptop that I recommend to most people out there going forwards, especially to people who are new to the Mac world or they're upgrading from Intel MacBooks from before 2020. The only people who I'd say that shouldn't be buying this laptop are your sort of creative or heavy power users. You know, if you're the type of person that works with 50 Chrome tabs open, with multiple Notion and PowerPoint windows, and Stata running code in the background, then this laptop probably isn't for you. To be fair, you can definitely do all of those things on the Neo. It's just that the 8 GB of RAM might limit you here. Maybe not now, but in a few years' time, it might limit you. And obviously, there's no 16 GB option with the Neo. And of course, there will be people out there who just need a Windows laptop instead of Mac OS. Whether that's because you're planning to use your laptop for gaming, or if you're using apps like Microsoft Excel, which just works so much better on Windows. Or if you're one of those people who desperately needs a touchscreen on their laptop. Although to be fair, Parallels did confirm that the MacBook Neo can run Windows Parallel. So if you wanted to use Excel on the Mac with all the keyboard shortcuts, you could just install Windows on the Neo. And finally, if you already own an M series MacBook, then it's probably not worth upgrading to this machine. So if you currently own, say, an M1 MacBook Air like I do, I wouldn't really recommend switching over to a laptop like this, unless your current machine is literally dying and you desperately need a cheap replacement. But yeah, otherwise, MacBook Neo, definitely the laptop of the year for me, especially as more and more retailers start discounting this. This is probably going to be one of the best laptop deals that has ever emerged, which isn't something that you'd normally associate with Apple. Anyway, hopefully you guys found this review somewhat helpful. Make sure to leave a like if it did, and subscribe for the next one.